It came on a Tuesday, not a Friday night, not a holiday, just a boring, beige Tuesday, the kind you forget while you're still living it. I was at the office, one foot out the door and 2 fingers deep into a bag of stale trail mix when my phone lit up. Ashley had gone on a girls' trip to Monterey, some overpriced spa retreat, sea salt massages, and something called a goddess soap that sounded like it required a full moon and crystals. She hadn't texted all day, which wasn't unusual. Ashley and Silence had become old friends lately. But then ding, a message. From her. I glanced at it, expecting a miss you or some spa selfie with a towel turban and those ridiculous cucumber slices on her eyes. Instead, I read, "You were the best last night. I can still feel you." My fingers froze over the bag. At first, my brain did something impressive. It tried to logic its way out. Maybe she meant me? Maybe she was being flirty, nostalgic, even poetic? Maybe this was romantic? But she hadn't been with me last night. Last night, I fell asleep to a documentary about sea turtles and the sound of my own teeth grinding. That message wasn't for me. My stomach dropped so fast I almost laughed. Like a sudden elevator plummet, straight past denial, through shock, and into something far more surgical clarity. I didn't reply, didn't call, didn't rage. I just stared at the message like it was some sacred artifact from the wreckage of our marriage. Then I did something I don't regret. I screenshot it. Then I printed it. Yeah, old school. On real paper, from the printer we bought together at Costco, the one she swore we'd never use. That message, in all its misfired glory, came out crisp and unforgiving. I slid it into a manila envelope, sealed it, and placed it in her favorite drawer back home, the one where she kept her makeup and secrets. And I wrote one sentence on the envelope in sharp, steady black ink. "This is your souvenir of the betrayal." No exclamation mark. No rage. Just truth, dressed for court. I didn't confront her then. No dramatic calls, no confrontation under candlelight. I let the silence marinate. But make no mistake, I wasn't the same man I was the day before. A quiet resolve settled in. I wasn't going to be the guy sobbing into a whiskey glass or keying some guy's Camaro. No, I was going to watch. I was going to wait. Because betrayal isn't the end of the story. It's just the part where the hero stops being polite. She walked in 2 days later, bags in hand, sunglasses on despite the overcast sky, and a smugness in her step that didn't match the story she'd told me about, needing space to recharge. You don't strut like that unless something, or someone, charged you already. Ashley didn't say hello. She dropped her designer tote by the stairs like a bored heiress in a soap opera and headed straight to the bedroom. I followed from a distance, not in the mood to stage a fight. I just wanted to observe. She hummed. That was the first red flag. Ashley didn't hum. She used to. Before we started sleeping on opposite sides of the bed like emotionally distant roommates. But lately, silence. She'd become fluent in cold shoulders and sighs. So humming? That was practically a confession. I stood just outside the doorway and watched her open the drawer. The one with the envelope. She paused. Long enough for me to know she'd seen it. Her fingers hovered like they recognized the weight of guilt inside before she even touched it. Then she opened it. The printed message stared back at her like a spotlight from the heavens. She didn't gasp. Ashley wasn't a gasper. She didn't cry, either. That would have meant there was shame, or even worse, remorse. No. What she did was worse. She smiled. A little twitch at the corner of her lips. Almost like she was impressed. As if this was some chess move I had finally mustered up the guts to play. Then she looked up at me. I hadn't made a sound, but she knew I was there. "I assume you've read the message," she said coolly. "Not. It's not what it looks like. Not. That wasn't meant for you. Just logistics." I nodded once. "Printed it for you. Figured you'd want something to remember your trip by." She set the envelope down gently, like it was an antique, then leaned against the dresser and crossed her arms. "So what now?" Ah, the eternal question. What now? I didn't answer right away. I walked over to the bed, our bed, the one that had seen more cold shoulders than affection in the last 6 months, and sat down. I looked around at the room, taking in the little clues I had ignored for too long. The perfume she only wore when she traveled. The extra charger on her side of the bed. The way the picture of us from our honeymoon had been quietly swapped out for some generic framed quote about freedom. I met her eyes. "Tell me it's over," I said, not because I believed it, but because I wanted to watch her lie. She didn't. Instead, she sighed. It wasn't supposed to happen. And yes, I know how that sounds. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. like watching a rerun and pretending to be surprised at the ending. Is it still happening? I asked. Ashley looked down at her manicured nails. Does it matter? And there it was. The moment the mask didn't just slip, it shattered. Not only was she unapologetic, she was done pretending. She wasn't here to win me back. She was here because I had something she still needed: comfort, maybe legitimacy, a safety net, or maybe just time to figure out her next move. But I'd already made mine. I reached under the bed, pulled out a second envelope, and handed it to her. What's this? She asked. Everything else I've found. Messages, dates, receipts, a nice little timeline. I wanted you to know how thoroughly you underestimated me. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. I stood and headed for the door. Where are you going? She asked, still holding the envelope like it might burn her fingers. I looked back once. To make dinner. Figured you'd be hungry. Must be exhausting living a double life. I left her standing there, unread message in hand, ego dented but still intact. But inside, the cracks had started, and I wasn't finished. She always took long showers after her little retreats. The kind that steamed up the entire bathroom like a fog machine and gave her an excuse not to look me in the eye afterward. Like she was washing off not just the travel, but the guilt. Or maybe that's generous. Maybe it was just muscle memory. Maybe guilt was never part of the equation. That night, I sat at the edge of the bed again. Same spot as before. Same room. But this time, I opened her suitcase. Now, before you say invasion of privacy, let me stop you. That suitcase rolled into our home on wheels I paid for, under a roof I maintained, dropped off by a woman who had already broken every rule in the handbook. Whatever I was about to find, I had earned it. And oh, did I find it? Tucked neatly between her makeup bag and a rolled-up cashmere sweater was a folded piece of photo paper. Real photo paper. Like something printed at Walgreens. Who prints photos anymore? People who want to keep them off the cloud. That's who. I opened it. It was taken at night, judging by the string lights in the background. A coastal restaurant, maybe. She was sitting in his lap, some guy I'd never seen before, tan, muscular, the kind of smile that says, I like my steaks rare and my consequences rarer. She wasn't just smiling. She was glowing. That's what broke me. Not the body language. Not the intimacy. Not even the hand on her thigh. It was the glow. The same glow she used to save for me. On the beach after our wedding. At that surprise birthday party I threw when she cried because she thought I forgot. That glow used to be mine. Now it was a souvenir on photo paper. And she brought it home. She packed it carefully, like it was a trophy. Like this wasn't some side thing, some mistake in a lonely moment. No. This was something she wanted to remember. She meant to keep it. My hands didn't shake. My vision didn't blur. If anything, I felt clearer than I had in months. This wasn't suspicion anymore. This wasn't piecing together fragments and reading between the lines. This was the whole story in full color. The shower stopped. I could hear the water shut off, the familiar screech of old pipes and her footsteps on the tile. She'd be out in seconds, wrapped in that towel she always said was too small but kept using anyway. I slipped the photo back where I found it. Untouched. Unbothered. Let her believe she still had secrets. I wasn't done collecting. When she stepped into the bedroom, steam clinging to her like perfume, she raised an eyebrow. You didn't start dinner? I shrugged. Changed my mind. Not hungry anymore. She studied me. There was a flicker of something in her eyes. Maybe instinct. Maybe fear. But she said nothing. I slept on the couch that night. Not out of spite. Out of self-preservation. She didn't ask why. I used to think silence was awkward. The kind that stretches over breakfast like fog. The kind that lingers between two people who used to finish each other's sentences and now can't finish their coffee in the same room. But there's a difference between silence born of tension and silence born of control. This was the latter. Ashley sat across from me at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone with that casual detachment people use when they know they've already won. The same woman who used to giggle at my dumb impressions was now texting someone named C and smiling into her cappuccino like I didn't exist. She didn't know. She didn't know that her one accidental message had started a clock, and that I had decided when the buzzer would sound. That morning, while she applied mascara in the mirror, practicing that subtle look of innocence she wore so well, I slipped the photo and the printed message into a fresh envelope. This time, no note. Just the evidence. I sealed it and placed it into my work bag. Because now, the game had changed. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This wasn't about confrontation. This was about timing. And timing is everything. I spent the next few days studying her, like an archaeologist dusting off ruins and discovering just how long something had been dead. The fake laughs, the sudden nights out, the gym bag she never used, sitting freshly packed in the back seat. Always ready, always facing the door. She was leaving, not physically yet, but emotionally. She'd been gone longer than I cared to admit, so I made my own little project. I printed copies of the photo, placed one in a bank deposit box under my name. I printed her flight receipts too, the ones she didn't think I'd notice because she never logged out of the shared travel points account. I even printed the spa retreat itinerary, which didn't include the oceanfront hotel she charged to our joint card under miscellaneous travel expense. A hotel I called. A room she shared with a man named Colin. Colin. See, cute. So now I had a box. A nice, neat little archive of betrayal. Something any divorce attorney would frame like artwork in their office. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted her to feel safe, comfortable, like the mask she wore every morning was still working, like the version of me she thought she broke had gone to sleep for good. Let her think I was just coping. Let her think I was slow to catch on. Let her dig her hole a little deeper. Then, on Friday morning, I slid the envelope into her handbag, right on top, where her hand would land first. She was running late, hair pinned, heels clicking, shouting something about traffic and a luncheon she couldn't miss. She didn't even notice the envelope at first, but I did, and I watched her face shift, just slightly, when she reached into her bag and felt the shape of it. Flat, heavy, familiar. "What's this?" she asked, frowning as she held it up. I didn't look at her, just sipped my coffee and said, "Something for the road." She stared at me for a second too long, then tucked the envelope back without opening it. Smart girl. Not in front of me. She left a minute later, and I smiled, because I knew exactly what was going to happen next. It rang once, then twice. I let it go to voicemail the first time. Call it strategy. Or maybe I just enjoyed the silence more than I used to. Ashley called again. This time, I answered. Logan. Her voice, sharp, breathless. A tone I hadn't heard in months. Not since the early days, back when she still cared what I thought. "You put something in my bag." I didn't say a word. Just sipped my coffee. Let the silence stretch so thin you could see through it. "You went through my things?" There it was. The accusation. The classic deflection. When cornered, the guilty never ask why. You already know why. They ask, "How dare you?" I leaned back in the chair, watching dust float through the sunlight like confetti from some invisible celebration. "Is that the part you're upset about?" I asked calmly. She hesitated. "That told me everything." "Logan, you don't know the full story." "Oh, I know enough," I said, reaching for the second cup of coffee I'd brewed for myself. I'd stopped making her 1 week ago. She never drank it. I don't waste energy on empty rituals. There was static on the line. The sound of her starting to say something, stopping, then trying again. "He doesn't mean anything." I let out a low chuckle. "Ashley, he meant enough for you to print photos. He meant enough for you to glow." She went quiet. "You went into my suitcase," she said softly now. Not angry. Just stunned. "You brought it into our home," I replied. All I did was unpack the truth. A pause. Then the sound of a car door slamming. "You're not going to ruin my life over a stupid mistake," she snapped, the venom returning. "You think you're clever with your little envelopes and your cryptic silence, but I'm not going to let you play victim. You were distant. You checked out a long time ago." There it was. The justification. The bold, final act in the play called betrayal, the solo performance. I stood, walked to the window, watched a squirrel dart across the lawn with more direction than our marriage ever had. "I didn't check out," I said slowly. "I waited." "For what?" "For you to choose me," I replied. "For you to turn around. But instead, you packed him into your luggage like cologne. So don't feed me revisionist history and call it closure." She sighed. That long, exasperated exhale women do when they realize they've lost control of the narrative. "What do you want?" she asked. Not angry now. Just tired. Or maybe afraid of the answer. I thought about it. I could have said, a divorce. I could have said, an apology. I could have said, nothing. Instead, I smiled and said, "You'll find out soon enough." Then I hung up. Because sometimes silence is more terrifying than rage. Sometimes, not knowing is the sharpest blade. And Ashley? She had just realized she wasn't the one holding it anymore. 3 days passed. She didn't call. Didn't text. I knew she was rattled because she posted more than usual photos of salads she didn't eat, sunsets she didn't watch. Captions like "Peace is a choice" and "Resetting my soul." Nothing screams panic like Instagram enlightenment. Then she got my message. Dinner. Thursday, 7 p.m. La Vina. La Vina. Her favorite spot. Spanish tapas and overpriced wine. The place we'd celebrated our 3rd anniversary. The place she cried happy tears when I gave her the earrings she later pawned for a handbag. I reserved a table for 3. When she arrived, she looked immaculate, effortlessly polished. You'd think she was walking into a proposal, not a reckoning. But when she spotted the table, me seated calmly across from a woman she definitely didn't recognize, her stride faltered. "Logan," she said, smile thin. "Who's?" I stood. "Ashley, meet Marissa." Marissa stood too, shook her hand like it was a business deal. Polite. Firm. With the kind of confidence Ashley used to fake but never quite mastered. "She's a divorce attorney," I said, motioning to the seat. "And a witness." Ashley didn't sit. Not at first. But she did when I said this. "This is the part where you find out what I want." I pulled out a folder. Set it on the table. Inside? The printouts. The photos. The receipts. A log of everything. Colin's LinkedIn profile. His wedding announcement. Yeah, he's married too. Surprise. Ashley's face paled. Marissa handed her a pen. "This is a voluntary financial agreement," she explained. "If you sign today, we forego litigation. You walk away with your dignity, a slice of the furniture, and none of Logan's retirement." Ashley opened her mouth to protest, but I raised my hand. "You taught me something," I said calmly. "That pretending to be civil while gutting someone behind their back is an art. I've been practicing." She didn't speak. She just looked at me. And in that moment, I saw her for what she really was, not a villain, not a monster. Just small, hollow, like a balloon that finally realized it was full of nothing. She signed, and that was the appetizer. She moved out 2 weeks later. Not a word, not a thank you. She left behind a few dresses, one forgotten earring, and the ghost of who she used to pretend to be. But here's the kicker. Before she could rewrite the story for our friends and family, before she could make it seem like we drifted or Logan just wasn't enough, I hosted something bold. I threw a party, a house rewarming, invited everyone we knew. Her friends, my friends, people who used to call us #couplegoals. They came curious. They left stunned. Because instead of smiling beside her, I gave a toast alone. Calm. Unbothered. "I want to thank you all for coming," I began. "This house has seen a lot, laughter, memories, and betrayal carefully folded into weekend getaways." A few nervous chuckles. She left more than clothes behind. She left the truth. "I just thought you deserved to hear it," before she rewrote it. Then I handed out envelopes. Inside each, a copy of the message. "You were the best last night." They didn't need the context. They could do the math. Ashley heard about it 2 days later. She sent one message. "You're vindictive." I didn't reply. Because no, I wasn't vindictive. I was thorough. For a while, I lived in quiet. Not the broken kind, the restorative kind. The kind that doesn't echo with doubt, but with clarity. I changed the locks. Donated the things she left behind. Tore down the "Live, Laugh, Love" sign that had always felt like a lie. And for the first time in years, I looked in the mirror and recognized the man staring back. He looked tired, but sharper. He wasn't waiting anymore. Then came Colin. Oh yeah, he called me. Turns out Ashley's story to him was different. She told him I was abusive, cold, controlling. She didn't tell him I was the one who paid off her student loans, or that I once took 3 jobs to cover her medical bills, or that every time she lied, I tried harder. Colin wanted to clear the air. I let him talk. Let him say all the things Ashley probably rehearsed with him. Then I told him the truth. About the messages. The lies. The envelope. He went quiet. And I said, "You're not the first guy she made feel like a savior, but I bet you'll be the last." He hung up. And that was the night I slept like a stone. 6 months later, I got a letter. Not a text. Not an email. A handwritten letter. It was from Ashley. I'll admit, I didn't open it right away. I let it sit in the drawer for a week like a forgotten lottery ticket. When I finally read it, it was exactly what you'd expect. Long, wordy. A few teardrop stains that looked suspiciously theatrical. She wrote about regret. About not realizing what she had. About how she wasn't in the right place back then. Classic. And at the bottom, a line that stuck. "If you ever want to talk, I'm here." I folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. then tossed it in the fireplace. Let the past burn. Because some bridges don't need rebuilding. They need gasoline and a match. A year passed. The house became a home again. Not because I repainted or redecorated, but because I stopped listening for footsteps that never came. I still see her sometimes. In passing. At the grocery store. Once at a mutual friend's wedding. She doesn't smile anymore. And me? I'm good. Not perfect. Not untouched. But real. Weathered. Grounded. I don't check phones anymore. I don't wait for the other shoe to drop. Because I've already heard it hit the floor. Some stories end with fireworks. Others with courtrooms and custody battles. Mine ended with an envelope. No blood. No screaming. Just truth, delivered like a gift with a silent bow. I didn't win. She didn't lose. We both walked away. But only one of us knew what they were walking toward.